You're listening to the Decidedly podcast with Sanger Smith and Shawn Smith. Our mission is to help business owners like you defeat bad decision-making so you can improve your health, wealth, and relationships. We do this by digging deep into the stories and expertise of our guests and distilling their knowledge into actionable wisdom for you to carry into your life and business. If you're new to the show, welcome. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any of our weekly episodes. If you prefer to watch this week's episode, head on over to YouTube for the full video. Now, let's get into this week's episode and defeat bad decision-making in your life and business.
You ever remember me talking about how when we build a business, you build your system and you get good at that system so that you can build efficiency, you can build capacity for it, you have competency in the staff and all those types of things. You have the same kind of client, the same kind of system, the same kind of process. And every now and then there'll be the temptation to bring on a client outside of that core strength. Oh, this is a really big client. We should bring them on and do all this other stuff we don't normally do for them. And how that throws you off. And in the end, it's hardly ever profitable. It's like taking a Chevrolet manufacturing assembly line and say, okay, today we're going to build a Cadillac. I mean, you can do it, but it's not going to be great in terms of the product, in terms of the efficiency, in terms of the profitability. That's how I feel when we do episodes that aren't with us just interacting with a guest and talking to a guest and finding out what they're interested in. It is different. So today we're looking at, since this is airing.
So everyone, shut it down, turn it off, don't listen. That's your message to the audience.
That's my message is.
Your opening message is, this is going to suck.
No. My message is this: we're putting extra energy in this to make it challenging, to make it great.
Oh, we're making no money on this. It's not profitable. Is that what you're sure?
That's for certain.
Yeah, this is our this is the concept car.
Yes.
That we're going to make.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And airing on New Year's Day, talking about, Morgan wanted us to talk about goal setting. So Morgan, our producer, always has a great sort of mind for what we ought to be talking about. And she wanted us to talk about goal setting today. So let me ask you, do you do New Year's resolutions?
No, I've never done them.
Why do you not do them? Is you a loser?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was going to say. The other thing that I was going to say is that I don't feel any special need to like I might have goals that align with a calendar year time frame. You understand? Like,
sure.
But I wouldn't call them a New Year's resolution.
Okay.
A resolution to me seems different than a goal.
In what way?
I'm going to start going to the gym.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to eat better this year. Mm-hmm. It's like
I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop work out every single day.
I don't see people often when they have a New Year's resolution that it fits within the SMART goal framework.
No.
Sometimes it does.
The ones that I've seen are, I think you're right.
Right. Specific, this is the acronym for anybody that doesn't know: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. And we've talked about it a lot on the podcast before.
We have.
Specific, obviously, that's straightforward.
Well, I think
measurable is something that I can calculate. Achievable, I actually have a chance of making this happen.
Realistic.
Not realistic.
Well, achievable means that
achievable means realistic.
Yes.
The reason I correct you is a lot of people think the R stands for realistic, and it doesn't. It stands for relevant.
Which means I have to be motivated to do it.
Well, and relevant to your values and the other things that are important to you. And, you know, if your health isn't actually something that's important to you to motivating is a part of that value set, then it's not relevant. But, and then time-based. So there's a deadline. Anyway, when people say New Year's resolution, I'm going to go to the gym more, that's literally, it's maybe achievable, but it's not specific, measurable, relevant, or time-based.
Right. I have found in the coaching work that I do that the most challenging part of establishing goals is making that transition from dreams to goals. You know, that said that goals are a dream with a deadline, is putting that deadline on the aspirational dream.
That's
right?
an
In other words,
interesting way to phrase it, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, they'll start with, I'm just going to eat healthier. Okay. I have no idea what that means. How do we know when you're done? How do we know if we've done it? What steps do you take? So how is that specific? It's not. How is that measurable? It's not.
Yeah.
How is that attainable? Maybe it is, but I don't know if we can know if we have attained it unless we put some numbers to that would give us indicators, either on the activities that you're doing or the result you're wanting to accomplish or the time frame you're wanting to accomplish.
So do you do New Year's resolutions?
I do. I wouldn't call them resolutions because I'm kind of with you. A resolution seems sort of restorative, or to me, I'm going to stop doing this, or I'm going to start doing this, without being a SMART goal. So what I have done, and I've
do you set New Year's SMART goals?
Well,
I don't really do that either.
I don't. Here's what I did. I'll tell you what I did. I do this, and I got this from a friend of mine who is pretty successful, and I respect a lot. And so what he did is years ago, he goes, I do have 4 blocker. I say, I have no idea what this is. He says, okay, so look at characteristics of your life, break it into 4 components that you want to work on. All right. So I did family and friends. I did faith and mindset. I did finances, and I did fitness.
Okay.
So if you look at those 4 characteristics, that's a pretty broad base of...
It's almost everything.
It's almost everything. I mean, I'm sure there's some other things you could put in there. But
fun, unsurprisingly missing.
That's one. No, I mean, I've done that in the...
Oh, there's this, that's made it into the 4?
Yeah.
Oh, so when you put fun in, what do you take out?
Faith.
Man, this church thing, man, this sucks.
I got it. I'm nailing it. I got this.
All right.
So, and I would call it.
You know what's funny? No matter what you would have said, it would have been.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing you could say.
Family for sure.
Oh, family, kick that to the curb for sure. And so when I look at, I don't want to say family and friends, because there are things, because it falls under the category of relationships, right?
Sure.
So I think
so. You have the 4. What's the 4 blocker? Do you have a goal for each one, or what?
Okay, so if I look at, and for me it was fitness, faith, and mindset, family and friends, and finances. If I look at starting that list, so if you take a page and just make 4 blocks. Start writing without sort of trying too much to filter and say, oh, does this fit in this block or not? Is just start brainstorming, just start writing.
What are you writing though?
I'm writing 3 things I want to accomplish. Now I might, if I'm going, I might come up with 4, 5, 6.
Sure, but you're writing things you want to accomplish.
But I want to narrow it down to 3 eventually.
And these are vague, or
they are, I want to do
specific goals.
They're specific, but I may not at first pass get enough time-based or whatever, but I'm going to refine them to SMART goals. I'm going to start writing in each block.
Okay.
Right? What you'll find if you just allow yourself to write without worrying about, is this the right block, and overthinking it too much, there's going to be something that shows up in multiple blocks.
Interesting. Okay.
So if I said, I want to write there's a book I want to write this year, where would you put that?
Well, I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So where does that fit? Well, I want to make a lot of money on it and do speaking. So maybe it goes in finances. Maybe it's in spirituality and mindset. It is going to help you with that. So maybe there, maybe I'm going to co-write it with a friend of mine or my wife or something. So maybe it goes in relate. I don't know. I'm just going to write it down. Right.
Okay.
And these things will start to show up if it's health related.
So if it's showing up more than once, what does that mean?
It means it's going to rise to the top. This is one of your more important goals for the next 12 months. I tend to do it at the beginning of the year because there's...
So what if something only shows up in one of the boxes? Does that mean...
No, you're going to narrow it down to 3 things.
Total.
No more than 3 in each box.
So 12 goals?
You have 12 things. Some of them might be the same thing.
That's too many goals.
It's not.
Seems like a lot.
Because then what's going to happen is you're going to look at that and you might find that one of these 12 is actually in a couple boxes. So it's really, and then maybe it's 11. But if you do that, sometimes they're not big, hard goals to reach.
Like what would be something that wasn't hard for you?
Let's say I want to make a large donation.
What did you actually do?
This is what I did. I just did it recently. I just did it for 2025.
Okay.
One of them was I wanted to make a big donation to charity.
So that's a goal that you have.
I wrote it down.
This was in the easy category?
It's easy. That's you pick I have a number. I don't know the charity though.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I've got to figure out.
But it's like, I already have the money.
I got the money.
Yeah, I can't. Okay. Got it.
I just wanted to
I've decided to do it. I just have to pick the charity. Okay, cool.
I got to pick the charity and I got to do it. Okay.
Oh, that's fun.
I want to be able to walk a marathon before I'm doing the Highland Trail in June. All right. So that's a fitness objective. It's time-based, specific.
Do you have is the marathon itself time-based? Walking at a certain time?
No.
It's just do it.
Just stopping. Yeah, just do it. I mean, you could stop if you're walking. You're not going to walk 26 miles without stopping. Just walking.
I don't know. As opposed to running?
Well, obviously, if you're running a marathon, you're not going to stop.
Why is that obvious? But walking, you will stop?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
You ever walk 26 miles?
I don't know. I've run that far.
You got to stop. Well, first of all, yes, so have I. But I'm not going to walk 26 miles without stopping.
Why is that so crazy?
I don't know.
Why is that crazy? Is it because it takes a longer time?
Fucking all day.
Okay.
To walk 26 miles.
How long would it take? Like 8 hours?
Yeah.
You think?
Probably.
Okay, so if you're walking how long are you, what's your walking pace?
20 minutes.
Is it 20 to that long? Is it that long?
3 miles an hour. So
what's 26 divided by 3? It's 8. 8 hours. So really almost 9.
Yeah, you're going to stop at some time.
8 hours, 30 minutes.
Yeah, you're going to stop and eat lunch.
Huh.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if you're hiking all day,
anyway,
take a few breaks.
So you have some that are much more black and white, maybe, or very like binary. You just did it. You just did it and
make them all that way.
Well, they're all binary in the sense of you either achieved it or you have not. But
yes,
but the
measurable,
the gift to the gift to the charity is very. It's not like you can halfway give it to charity.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
That's
like if your goal was, I want to bench 225, it's like you could make a lot of progress to that in 1 year and then still not get there.
I see what you're saying.
It was technically achievable, but you went from 160 to 215. You never quite got to 225.
Okay.
You just couldn't get there.
Right. Okay.
So
I'd still feel good about that.
No, I would too. But so you have these 10 to 12 goals.
Yes.
Some of them are much more simply achieved than other ones.
I try so when you look at attainable, right?
Yeah.
On your SMART analogy or acronym, I will create the goal, calibrate the goal so that it is attainable within the 12-month time frame.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not going to say I'm going to write, a whole book in a year if I really think it's going to take me 2.5 years.
No, I understand. But let's say it is achievable to write a book within a year.
It's
possible for you to have simply not accomplished it, but still done a lot of work.
Yeah.
I wrote 11 of my 12 chapters. I technically didn't accomplish it. It's not possible. It's going to be difficult for you if you're like, I'm going to go do my 26 miles walking today, for you to get, I only did 25 and then I collapsed. So, I think something like that, or the gift to charity is the most easy example of something that you're really not going to have a incomplete status.
On that one, as you said, that one's binary.
You will have either done it or you will have not done it. You wouldn't be like, well, I got most of the way.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, point is, you have all these goals.
Okay.
And what you like about this is the 4-block framework makes you, what does that achieve for you versus not using that framework?
For me, I think when you look at self-improvement, I think it's around gaining additional freedom and wealth. And when I say wealth, I don't necessarily mean monetary wealth, right? So that might be wealth of relationships.
Sure.
It might be wealth of peace of mind, right? Your mental state and emotions. It could mean, a lot of things in terms of freedom of time. It could be more meaningful work. There's a lot of definitions of it, but I think that blocking out these 4 categories gives me a holistic view of what I want to do this year. And then when I go and just start brainstorming and writing things in the categories, I have always found that there's 1 or 2 that end up in a couple categories.
What do you do with the ones that are in a couple categories?
I just pick a category and go with it.
No,
but it means that
you keep bringing that up. What's the significance of that?
It tells you that this is one of your goals this year. It's one of the objectives. It's one of the things you're wanting to work on, right? And so let's say,
okay, but if you're going to do all of them anyway, is that just like a fun thing to notice, or is there something different that you
tells you something about yourself, right? And so let's imagine that you're doing this and you write in, I want to do a couples retreat to the church with my wife. I don't know. It's just, I'd kind of like to do that. We haven't done that. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. And it ends up in 3 different categories.
It's going to end up in a few categories. It's going to end up in faith. It's going to end up in relationships.
I get that.
And so you're like, oh, that's something I really need to make sure I focus on and think about. Is there more that falls in that same area, right? And so is there something else? Because this is on my heart to do. Should I read a book with my wife together about relationships? Should we start going to this couples class?
So
are there other things?
There might be other goals that branch off of that. Is that what is important about noticing?
As you notice that, it might make you rethink the goals and go, you know what, this is the most important thing to me. This is what I want.
Okay, because I think what you're getting at is something that I see as a problem with a lot of goal setting, whatever category of goal setting, personal goals, New Year's resolutions, business planning, is people set goals based upon a hierarchy of values. However, not everyone is aware of their own hierarchy of values when they're setting their goals. So a lot of times people just set goals.
Right.
These are my goals for this year.
Okay.
I have them. So therefore I did the right thing. But they didn't really think about what was the highest and most important thing that they're aiming at. And so they have goals that are not motivating to them. So they end up doing something like, I want to lose 20 pounds this year. And okay, that's a smart goal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you just don't have 20 pounds to lose because you're already super skinny or something. But for most people, like that's a smart goal. For most
people, that's an attainable.
Yeah, that's a smart goal.
Sure.
Okay. But they didn't really, they chose that because they were searching for a goal. And that was something that really easily fit within the SMART goal framework. It's for most people, probably an objectively good thing to do. Yeah. But they didn't really think, does this align with my ultimate aim, with my values? And so then they don't do it. If they had said, okay, well, what is the most important thing to me? What are my most important values? What do I really want to aim at? Maybe they would have been more comfortable with leaving that off the table entirely and said, oh, I'm actually not even going to try to lose 20 pounds this year because my big goal is I'm going to go on this couples retreat with my wife and we're going to read this book and I'm going to join a new Bible study and I'm going to write a book and all these other things that are related to this, faith and relationships Venn diagram that has nothing to do with me losing weight.
Right. So I think a lot of people will write down goals and not put them through the acid test, right? So the acid test is, can I do what I need to do to reach this goal, right? And so what would you have to know to be able to answer that question? You'd have to know, what do I need to do? So if I say, am I willing to do what it takes to reach this goal?
Am I willing, not can?
Am I willing and able, right? So there's 2 components, right? So there's the motivational aspect, there's the ability aspect. So I might say, I want to be in the NBA, but I don't have the ability to do that, right? I don't have.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. So I might want to do it, but I don't have the ability. All right. So can I do this goal? Right. So am I willing and able to do what it takes to meet this goal? So I'd have to know, what does it take? So back to your example, your easy example, I want to lose 20 pounds this year. Right. So that's time-based. That's specific. What do I need to do that? right? You'd have to put this goal through an acid test, because the next step in goal achievement is, after you establish the goal, a SMART goal that's through the acid test, means you're willing and able to do what it takes to reach there. You've got to have a plan. And so the plan has to be actionable, boiling it down to say, I will do, right? So I must do X.
Yeah.
I must do X. Me, must, non-negotiable, do. What's the action step?
Yeah.
Right. So if I say I want to lose 20 pounds and I don't know what it takes, I've got to restrict calories to this, I've got to exercise that much, whatever it is.
Yeah. Then you can't do it.
Then you can't do it.
Or once you figure it out and you go, ooh,
right.
I don't want to do that.
I might have the ability to not want to.
I think that's a little different than the point I was making, but it's still a very,
what's the point you were making?
That people might be willing and able to do something, but it's not their most important thing. Because it doesn't actually align with their ideal self,
right? Their
vision for themselves, their purpose, their deeply held values.
Well, that would hit the R, relevant. So it might not be relevant to them because it might not be motivating, right? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I mean, you could still be motivated to lose 20 pounds, for example, but is it the most, like, if I'm going to do something like a New Year's resolution, I would imagine that the point of doing it is to find the most important resolutions, not the third most important possible resolution. I want to find the best one I can find. If I'm setting personal goals for my growth and development, those goals ought to be the goals most likely to move me closer to my ideal self, because they're going to move me somewhere. They're going to do something for my life.
How have you found that it's best to be able to determine that?
To be able to determine what is
what's your highest. In other words, if you go through your values, are you saying you go through an exercise to prioritize those values?
Well, prioritize in the sense of having a top tier, but within the top tier I don't think you necessarily need to say like, this is my number one and this is my number two, but have, 3 to 6 or something. I like to have 5. But a single digit number, those are the values. And those are in a class that's different from all of the other ones. They may be good, but they're not as important as these. Within this group, I don't have to prioritize.
Did I tell you the question that I had heard that helps sort of looking at rank order, prioritizing the values, is the question is, when you look at these values, is I always do this no matter what. Like, in other words, this is a value no matter what. This is one of my important values no matter what. You can ask yourself that, and that'll sort of take a first rough.
It's a really good question.
But the second question I think is really more important. I advocate for this. In other words, what do you find yourself really taking action for or convincing other people to do?
Yeah.
You find yourself advocating for that question. That tells you what is really your important value.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Because in order to prioritize anything, I am necessarily not prioritizing, or really, I'm necessarily sacrificing another value or another thing or another pursuit or another goal. There's an opportunity cost to me pursuing what I pursue. And so if it's not something that I advocate for, then why would I pursue it at the sacrifice of something that I might actually advocate for? Yeah, I think that's a really good test.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, if you don't, the consequence of not doing that is that you are going to make decisions, or even worse, you're going to set goals that are based upon other people's priorities. And so, like, I think a really good way that this reveals itself is if you're asking the question, what should I do this year? What should my goals be this year? Because where is that? Who is imposing that should? The should reveals a judgment, right? Like, that's an implication that there is a right thing, a right choice, right? That is what the word should implies. Right according to what? Well, if you haven't identified that, it's going to be right according to probably all the other voices that you're hearing. That internal voice from your childhood or your parents and their opinion, your siblings, your friends, the community you're in, whatever.
I'll tell you a great one that falls right in that category is a lot of business owners will feel like, well, I should increase top line by
because it's like the lose 20 pounds thing.
Right.
I mean, it's just one of the most easy things. Like pretty much most businesses would be better off by doing that. You know, like,
right. It's hard to fight against it.
Yeah.
But what I found, and I've told you this story before, is that I was in a group and everybody in the group wanted to raise their top line. Right. I'm going to grow by 10%. I'm going to grow by 20%. I'm going to grow by 30%, and it just became this measuring contest.
And it means nothing when we're
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was the only one in the group that I said, okay, my goal is I want to take off 2 months.
Yeah.
So I want to work 10 months rather than 12.
Yeah.
And so that really stood out from the group. And I didn't feel connected to this other goal of growth.
Yeah.
Right. And I felt
because that a goal fundamentally is actually a measurement, not something to be achieved in and of itself. So that goal for you of I want to spend less time was a measurement of your progress toward an aim that is bigger than the goal.
Yes.
Right. Is because you're going to do something with your time that was more important to you.
Right.
And more fulfilling. So that's why a goal like, I want to make more money. When it's not thoughtful, it's not functioning as a measurement toward anything at all. But yours was, and that's why you didn't give a shit at all about the revenue.
Right.
Well, the revenue doesn't matter because the revenue isn't going to directly relate to this ultimate aim of I'm going to spend time with my family or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. Is the goals ought to be a benchmark measurement for the directionality of your larger objectives. Right. So if we keep going back to this weight loss goal, because it's an easy one to pick on, is your goal can't be just to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. That's not really the goal. That is the benchmark on the trail that tells you're in the right direction because you want to get healthier. Right. Or you want to be able to live longer so you can spend time with your grandkids. There's a bigger, significant goal or objective or vision for you. And that goal just tells you where you are. You need them. Otherwise you're directionless. I was doing some hiking. I don't know if I ever told you this. So I was doing some hiking. This was in Nevada years ago. And I was hiking up this mountain that did not have a sort of a natural peak. Like a real sharp peak, like most in Colorado. It was more like a overturned bowl.
Okay.
Right? So it would just kind of slope upwards, but you could never really see the peak.
Yeah.
And it was super rocky. There was no vegetation hardly at all in this area. It was kind of desert hiking. And I'm hiking along what I think is the trail, and I see this tin can. It's like an old soup can, and somebody had stuck it on a branch. I was like, why the hell? Somebody was camping out up here and didn't pack out their trash. I'm a big believer in sort of leave no trace. And so it irritated me to see this soup can sitting on a branch. And I thought, all right, on my way back down, I'll get that. I'm not going to carry it all the way up, but I'll get it on my way down. And I'm hiking and I see another one. Kind of up in the distance. I'm like, what the hell? And I walk over to it. It's the same kind of, the label's peeled off, just like the other one. I was like, oh man, this asshole did it twice.
Yeah.
And then I keep hiking and I see another one.
This is a trail marker.
And I realize it's a trail marker. It was marking the trail because there was no other way, because there was no vegetation. There was no visible trail on the ground.
Who should have wrote something on it? Because I would have picked it up probably too.
It took me a while, but I was like, okay. And it just stuck in my head is that without those trail markers or without those goals, I would have been lost because I couldn't see the end objective. I can't even visualize it. It would be easy to veer off track. And so I think the goals begin to focus ourselves because they're measurable, they're time-based, and we can know if we achieved them or not. I can know if I passed the tin can in the trail or not.
Yeah. If you are asking yourself, what should my goals be? I think that's an idea or an indicator that you're going to get lost with your goals because you're just going to send them on all different directions.
Mm-hmm.
But another one is if your goals are your future goals or current goals are like completely unrelated to the goals you've been setting in the past. You know, someone's like, well, I'm going to
be an airline pilot this year or something.
Yeah. It's just totally not what you did last time.
Right.
Not to say you have to do the same thing. Well, I ran a marathon, so now I'm going to run an ultra marathon.
Okay.
No, it doesn't have to be in that line, but like in the same vein, if you go, why I ran a marathon, now I want to get into powerlifting. I could at least go, the guy probably cares about fitness, you know, and it's not just fitness, it's competitive and it's a sport. Okay. So there's some form of competition related to fitness. It's an individual pursuit both times. Okay. Like there's a lot of things there, but you know, my big focus this year is my marathons. And then next year it's like, I'm really obsessed with knitting. So I'll be like,
okay,
what?
All right.
You know, that's weird. You know, and I can't think of an example of someone who I can't think of it exact, but it happens. Like
do you think that happens in business a lot?
Yeah, no, I do. I think it does a lot. In business, it's, you know what, this year we're gonna really get good at, like, people change their marketing strategy randomly, their ideal client, they can't really, it changes often. You know, your ideal client shouldn't be changing very often.
No.
I'm not saying it never.
Unless your capabilities have changed dramatically. They hired new staff.
That's like, I feel like that's something that should happen like
thoughtfully
once every 50 years in a business, maybe. Okay. Like, you know, that's not something. Okay, how often has Apple's ideal client changed?
No,
ideal customer.
I agree. Yeah,
you know, how often is Lexus changing the profile of their? Well, here's the thing. It's a big deal when it happens, like with Jaguar. Yes. Their whole thing recently is they're embracing and admitting we're changing our ideal client. We're trying to appeal to someone different. Mm-hmm. And it requires a major effort, and it's front page news, and it's everyone's talking about it, and we're judging whether or not it's a good idea, but
let's see if it works out.
It's not something they're doing every year. Okay, annual business planning, who's our ideal client this year?
Right.
No. So if you're changing that like year after year, that's not good. Or if, you know, people's ultimate goal, it's usually not necessarily like their quarterly objective.
Yeah.
You know, but like, one day I want to open up this charity. And so that's what I'm building my business to get profitable so I can open up this charity. And then you ask them about it a couple of years later and they're like, well, actually, you know, I'm thinking more of like to do this other specialty thing in the charity's probably not going to happen. I'm going to do that. I want to get into writing books. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay. So that's very different.
Well, I think there are certain personality types that are more susceptible to doing that than others. People who are,
but it's still the same. It's the same. It's caused by the same thing, and that is not being clear on your ultimate aim.
Yeah. Okay. No,
that's what I would say. But you're totally right. Like entrepreneurial people are going to be more comfortable with change. Those people happen to be the owners and founders of businesses more often. Their default to problem solve is to change stuff.
Yeah. And that cuts both ways. Is they will be innovative and willing to try new things. They're just as willing to abandon them.
Yeah.
Right. They're just as willing to abandon and go, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. So I think when you go through sort of the goal setting, you look at, have a goal, which we talked about on, SMART goals, knowing what you put it through an acid test, have a plan that passes the acid test that says I must do, and then you've got to work the plan. So having something in the calendar or figuring out, well, how am I going to do that? Right. Yeah. So if you said, back to your weight loss goal, that's a goal. It's realistic and time-based. I'll lose 20 pounds in 1 year. I know what I have to do. I've got to restrict calories to X, and I've got to increase caloric output, your exercise to Y.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next step would be, all right, I got to start doing that.
Yeah.
You can't just hope that's going to happen. You say, all right, so what am I going to do? All right. So that's working the plan. So I'm going to start cooking this for breakfast or I'm going to start eating this packaged meal.
Yeah.
I'm going to start working, whatever you're going to do. So you've got to start working the plan. And then what happens is that you're going to get discouraged, right? And so you've got to have the ability to control direction and throw off discouragement. So control and direction, I've got to monitor progress. I've got to work with a coach. I've got to work with an accountability partner. I've got to have regular meetings and check-ins.
Yeah.
So that's a really important part. So if I say, all right, here's my goal, here's my plan, here's how I'm going to do it. What is the accountability component where I'm going to control direction and meet and check in? So what are my key performance indicators? What are the things I want to measure relatively shortly? And then what happens when I get discouraged? Because you will. If it's a challenging enough goal, you're not going to be just sailing through with no problems. Otherwise, that wasn't a challenging enough goal for you.
Do you tell people what your goals are?
I work with people on specific goals. I don't share everything with everybody.
No, your goals.
What do you mean?
What do you mean you work with people on specific goals?
Okay, so let's say when I wrote my book, Plateau Jumping, available on Amazon. When I wrote my book, I had an accountability partner. So I had regularly scheduled meetings. I had progress checks. So I shared that with my editor, but I didn't share my fitness goals with my editor because she wouldn't care.
No. Well, obviously,
is that what you mean?
No. The goal of writing the book itself.
Right.
Did you share that goal with someone before you started it?
Before the accountability partner hiring it, working with an editor. Okay. Yes.
Really? Who?
I did.
I knew about it.
Yeah, I shared it with you. I shared it with Mom. I shared it with a couple other friends of mine.
Okay. So when you like this list of goals that you have right now that you just did, how many of those will you share with people?
What works out to be about half of them are people where I've got accountability people with
not the accountability person.
So for example, on doing the charitable thing.
Well, you've shared that now.
I've shared it now, but I wouldn't necessarily share that with somebody. I'm going to do this year because that's sort of a private thing. Some are more personal that I wouldn't share.
Okay, so if they're personal, you don't share them. If they're not personal, you do? Is that
Yeah.
Okay, so it's only the personal ones.
Yeah, or if there's somebody else involved. So let's say it's a family and friends.
Obviously, if there's someone involved, you're going to tell them.
Here's what I'm saying. If it's family and friends, I might say, hey, one of the things I want to do this year is spend more time together. Let's do X. Let's go out with friends on Wednesdays, whatever. Right.
Yeah. No, of course.
No, but not of course. I might say, this is a goal of mine, not just say, hey, do you want to go to dinner with these friends and leave it unrefined? I might say, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I want to get to know you better, or I want to build our friendships or whatever. And here's, so I might say the objective, right? So it's not an obvious.
But you don't make some people say never share your goals with anyone. And their reason is because there's a dopamine release when you do share a goal that tricks your brain into thinking you've already achieved the goal.
Okay.
And that's a real thing.
Where do you sit on that?
I don't tell people ever.
Never.
Unless it's already
accountability partners that you meet with, like each year.
Not like
your business coach, your business goals.
Okay, yeah, but not obviously, if there's someone in that role, naturally they're going to know what the goal is.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's not what I'm talking about.
I don't know what
you don't listen.
You don't listen.
Yeah, I'm saying, are there people in your life who you share the goal with? Obviously, if your goal is to lose 20 pounds and you hire a personal trainer to get that done, they're going to know.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, there are people outside of that personal trainer who you tell?
No, it's none of their business.
Never.
No.
Really?
No, not
ever.
A personal goal like that? No, I wouldn't tell.
Well, personal in the sense of this list of goals.
Okay.
They're related to your personal development.
I guess my answer is if they're personal, I don't. I tend to not unless I need that person as an accountability partner.
Okay. Do you ever share your business goals?
Yes.
With people outside of the business?
I have a business group that I meet with, and one of the objectives is to do.
So they sort of function as the accountability partner.
Mm-hmm.
It would be it would be curious as to why you were in that group if you were unwilling to share your goals.
Would be,
Right.
yes.
But nobody outside of that group?
No.
You never like having dinner with your friend and you're like, yeah, well, this year I think I'm going to do this.
No, I think it's...
So you do keep all of your goals to yourself.
Yeah, unless there is a purposeful reason that somebody needs to have that goal.
Unless they're helping you achieve the goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do, I guess.
Okay. Well, that took us a long time to get there, but
because you don't listen. Are there people you notice when people do share their goals with you that, and they don't, you're not related to the achievement of the goal, that they like hardly ever do it?
Oh, is that right?
To me, it seems that way. When I hear people tell me about their goal and I'm not a part of achieving it, like they're not telling me so I can hold them accountable.
Right.
They're not telling me because I'm coaching them. They're just like a friend, or usually it's a friend of a friend. Because my friends don't do this. They're like, I'm thinking about going to school and get my PhD.
Right. Okay.
You're not. Okay. I'm like, I always want to be like, where can I bet on this? You're not. You won't do it. Or like, well, I think this next year I'm going to start my own business.
Okay.
First of all, they reveal themselves because they always say, I think. But when they like, why would you tell me that?
Right.
Why would you tell me I can't help you achieve this? I'm not holding you accountable. You're not going to do it. Every single time without fail, it's like they don't ever do it.
Right. Maybe you're just hanging around. Maybe your friends just have flaky friends.
No, I mean, this really is not. I can't even hardly think of. I can only think of a couple of individual people who I know do this. Okay. Most of the people I talk to don't do this, but you'll notice it now.
Okay, I will.
Like there are these people. These guys are out there. Okay, and the only reason I would tell someone, and I still probably wouldn't, is if it was something like that. It's I've already signed up for, and it's definitely gonna happen. And so like in other words, it's not that I didn't avoid telling people about doing an Ironman. Once I was already signed up for it and my flights were booked, I knew I was like there was no danger of it not happening.
Right.
But I certainly didn't tell anybody before then, even though I had committed to it.
Yeah.
To myself.
Yeah. Do you find that helps you?
Well, I just think it's interesting that we both do that unintentionally.
Yeah.
We don't, it's not like I purposefully don't do that. Ooh, I wanted to tell my goal at this dinner party, but I'm holding it in because I remembered that one time I read a study about how that creates a dopamine. No, I just don't do it.
I don't.
And everybody else don't.
I don't want to ever have put that out there in the universe and then not done it.
Yeah.
I'm going to run an ultra.
That's like my nightmare.
Not do it.
Is somebody coming up and be like, how's that super cool thing going? And me going, I quit.
Yeah. Turns out I don't really want to learn to play the guitar.
Yeah. I don't care about that at all, actually. Yeah. Yeah. That would be one that I would quit, actually.
Yeah.
I could see myself, and I totally did, like, this would be cool. Like, I should totally learn how to play guitar. It would make me more well-rounded and playing a musical instrument and then not do it. Do it for like not even a week. That's how long I would stick with guitar, probably.
Yeah. It's hard.
Because that's how long I did stick with guitar.
We're good at it. Make it look so easy.
Well, and you've never heard of anyone tell you that they were going to learn to play guitar. Who then learned to play guitar.
No, that's true.
No, all the guys know how to play guitar, it's a surprise to you when you learn about it. Like I had a client who I was like, what's the good news in your life? He goes, I just got this awesome guitar. This like $2,000 guitar. And I said, dude, you play guitar? He goes, yeah, I've always played guitar. But nobody who's ever said, I'm gonna learn guitar.
So I'll give you an example. I'll brag on a friend of mine. I was traveling with this past year, and so we're traveling together. And he comes down from the hotel because we're taking a van to the next stop, and he's got his luggage, of course, and he's also got this little ukulele case. I was like, "Oh, you play the ukulele? I didn't know that." He goes, "No, I'm learning." I go, "Oh, you're gonna learn to play the ukulele?" He goes, "Yeah, and now what I already knew about this guy is he played about 7 other instruments.
Okay.
So
that's very different.
It wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
And what impressed me though, is he in learning to play the ukulele, brought this to Europe to practice.
Yeah.
So he brought
that's a level of commitment there.
It got better.
Yeah.
During the day, he left. He said, I've got to go. I have a call. I said, you have a call? It's like, why are you taking a call? You know, we're here in Poland. Or
yeah.
He goes, well, it's with my ukulele
instructor.
He was still doing his lessons. That's
what instrument does this guy know already? What are the other southern?
I don't know, but
are they string instruments?
One was piano, like he's classical pianist. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but
because I got to think, if a guy owns, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, by the way, right now. I don't know anything about music or instruments. But if you have 7 instruments that you're proficient at, I have to imagine, okay, I might offend somebody. I have to imagine that ukulele is not so complicated that it requires its own special lessons. Like if you could play guitar,
right?
You're telling me you can't just pick up a ukulele and like?
I think he wants to get really good.
You can't like watch like 3 YouTube videos and be fine at it. You have to have private lessons. Is he a professional musician?
No,
he's just a guy that likes them.
He's just a guy that's really good at doing stuff, I guess.
You do other things like that?
Yeah.
So you also know like 8 languages too? Is he one of those?
So, but I think it's the same kind of thing. Like people that know like 6 languages.
It's like, shut up. Once you get to 3.
You get 3. Like
you get 3, I'm no longer impressed.
Isn't Italian and Spanish kind of the same? It's one of those.
Once you get to 3, I'm no longer impressed when that number keeps climbing.
Right.
1 is whatever. 1 is just your...
you got to do that one. That's the ante to play in the game.
If you don't have 1, I'm going to make fun of you.
Well, they're not going to know.
That's why it's going to be brutal.
It'll be easy to make fun of them. They won't even understand.
I'm telling everyone.
They won't even understand.
In front of your face. Yeah. 2, oh, that's good. That's a unique.
Bilingual.
That's interesting.
It's good.
2. 3, I'm going, wow, that is impressive, because you probably didn't incidentally learn 3. You probably had to purposefully learn the 3rd one.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because, my mom speaks Spanish, my dad speaks Polish. It's like, and you learned English? Whoa, dang, that's impressive. So 3 is impressive. You probably had to study. 4 is, dude, shut up.
4, I'm no more impressed with 4 than I was at 3.
No, I'm certainly not 33% more impressed. Not at all. I just go, oh, okay, whatever.
Right.
You get to 5.
Yeah. I think they're cheating somehow.
You don't actually know.
Yeah.
One of these, you don't even know.
It's like Ukrainian and Russian. It's like, okay, it's kind of the same.
How am I going to test this?
I don't know.
Yeah, because once you get plus like 3, 4, 5, you're in a category of like, we're never going to be in a situation where I can see you speak all of these.
Right.
Like, let's say we go to France.
We're just showing off.
I can test your English, right? We're speaking English. I can see you interact with the French people. Well, now let's put Spanish and Italian to work. We can't.
Right.
Those people aren't here. So I think most of the time they're like, they know like enough to order food in Ukraine, and they just go, let me check that one out.
And by the way, when you were saying that you don't know anything about music, I think we barely know the one language we use right now too. I think we're equally as incompetent to speak on this.
Yeah, I certainly don't know anything about learning languages.
Right.
But
have we fully exhausted our discussion on goals?
We were kind of going in a direction of crapping on people for their silly hobbies and the things that make them better than us. Learning lots of instruments
they have it coming.
And lots of languages.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other things that people do that are objectively good, demonstrate their competency, discipline, dedication, and intellect and passion that we should make fun of?
I'm sure there's lots. It would make us feel a lot better about ourselves.
It would be for not doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
We should make a list. Maybe we'll do another show.
What do I hate about people who give to charity? People who volunteer.
Those people who read the Bible in a year.
You know what I hate about nuns and adoptive parents? I don't know. Yeah, we're done, man. Whatever. So set better goals, I guess. What's our takeaway here?
Our takeaway is, if you're going to set a goal, make it a SMART goal. Make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And then use the 4 blockers if you're going to set a New Year's type goal. So looking at fitness, looking at faith, looking at family, looking at finances, those types of things, and then use the process of set a goal, set a plan, work the plan, control direction, and throw off discouragement. How about that?
Agree.
I summarized it.
You say it in Spanish?
You just made a great decision to listen to this episode of Decidedly. Make another great decision by subscribing to the show and leaving us a review wherever you're listening. We appreciate the support. It helps business owners like you find our community and defeat bad decision-making in their own lives. For more decision-making insights, check us out at decidedlypodcast.com, on Instagram at decidedlypodcast, or grab a copy of Sanger and Shawn's books from the links in the show notes. Finally, we'd like to thank Shelby Peterson of Transcend Media for editing and post-production of the show. Thanks for listening. I'm Morgan, your producer, and this is Decidedly.